When will the Black Flash show up again on The Flash Season 4? I'm Jason Inman, and I'm going to look back at his appearances so far and answer that question for you. Now, fans of the CW DC TV universe, we know that Black Flash has been the villain to a couple of shows over the years, and when Hunter Zolomon first appeared in The Flash Season 2, pretending to be Jay Garrick, little did we know that he would soon morph into the scariest speedster imaginable. Now, fun fact, the Flash television show is the first time that Hunter Zolomon has ever taken up the mantle of the Black Flash. In the comics, Hunter Zolomon is actually the second Reverse Flash who calls himself Zoom and plagues Wally West. In the most recent season of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, the Black Flash also appeared hunting the Legion of Doom in order to destroy the time aberration known as Eobard Thawne. During Season 3 of The Flash, Barry Allen faced off against the Black Flash when he went into the Speed Force in order to save Wally West. And then eventually he was saved by Jay Garrick. In the Black Flash's quest to wipe out all the time aberrations and threats to the sanctity of the Speed Force, he identifies Barry Allen as someone who needs to be destroyed, and the two speedsters face off against each other in a pretty epic hand-to-hand speedster fight. And then don't forget about the Season 3 finale of The Flash when the Black Flash was last seen where he was destroyed weirdly by ice from Killer Frost, which was previously a thing that we had never actually heard of before. Now, to figure out where he might show up next, let's go to the comics. Let's open up some funny books, y'all, and figure out and examine exactly who the Black Flash is. Like so many cool and weird things in the Flash's history, the Black Flash is a creation of the Speed Force, and he was charged with bringing all dying speedsters back into the Speed Force. So even though he's always appeared as a skeleton kind of scary guy, the Black Flash actually has a very noble purpose when he's first created. But wait, you're asking me, isn't Death a character in DC Comics already? Well, I'm so glad you asked that. Thank you. You're a smart person. But the answer is actually yes. There are some different reasons for this. There is no canonical reason for this, but some suspect that the reason the Black Flash was created was because the versions of Death in the DC universe were too slow to actually be able to catch up with the speedsters even as they died. And so that the Black Flash is a unique guide to help show speedsters into the afterlife. Now, you have to be certain that you cannot confuse the Black Flash with other personifications of Death in the DC universe. There, of course, is the new god known as the Black Racer, who has actually some ties to Barry Allen, as we see in Final Crisis. And there is also Death of the Endless, who appears in Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Now, some suspect that actually all these different versions of Death are how characters perceive them. So speedsters, of course, perceive the Black Flash, and cosmic key magical characters perceive Death, and then also new gods or people of those power set perceive Black Racer. There is nothing to confirm that this is true, but it has been mentioned by certain writers like Neil Gaiman. Now, several speedsters have claimed to see the Black Flash before their death in the comic books, including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Max Mercury, who actually had several near-death experiences and saw the Flash every time. Flash Wally West first met the Black Flash in The Flash Volume 2. Now, this was when Mark Miller and Grant Morrison were writing the title. Mark Waid and Brian Augustine had taken a slight one-year break off of writing The Flash, and these two amazing British gentlemen snuck in there and introduced an idea that many people had not thought about before, and that was the Black Flash. Now, in this story, the Black Flash was trying to drag Wally into the Speed Force, but Wally is so damn fast that he's unable to be captured. And because he couldn't catch Wally, the Black Flash then took Wally West's wife, Linda Park, to lure Wally into the Speed Force after him. Now, a lot of this was because Wally West had come very close to joining the Speed Force several times up to this point, but had just never fully given himself over to that. And the Black Flash wasn't that happy about that. Wally vowed to the Black Flash that to save Linda, he would give up being the Flash. But that wasn't good enough for the old Blackie, so Wally teamed up with other speedsters like Jay Garrick in order to keep one step ahead of the Black Flash. You see, one of the Black Flash's main powers is that he can stop time for people who don't have super speed. And that actually makes him a real threat to the citizens and non-speedsters of the DC universe. In the end, Wally challenges the Black Flash to a foot race, even though the Black Flash is actually kind of faster than him. And he runs to a place where death can't exist, the edge of time. And at the edge of time, the Black Flash disappears, and actually this was the last time we saw the Black Flash in the comic books for quite some time. Now, this storyline, I've always loved this storyline because it combines the craziness of Grant Morrison with the action-adventure comics of Mark Millar. And if you think that this story sounds as cool as I think it is, I got a link in the description for where you can pick it up and you can read it. Now, since it's likely that Wally West is going to be on his own for part of The Flash Season 4, I think that there might be a good chance that we see him going toe-to-toe with the Black Flash. And in the comic books, the very next time that we saw the Black Flash after Wally faced down with him is when he heralds the death of Bart Allen, who had taken up the mantle of the Flash at that time. Now, you want to know more about Bart Allen? I did a video previously called Who is Impulse, so go check that out for more details on that. And another weird kind of fun fact, Bart Allen actually became a version of the Black Flash very briefly during the events of Flashpoint, but only in his tie-in miniseries called Flashpoint Kid Flash. Now, in Flash Rebirth, written by Jeff Johns, the comic book event that kind of changed everything and brought Barry Allen back from the dead after decades after Crisis on Infinite Earths and his giant death to the DC Universe, the Black Flash is actually there, and he's along for the ride. The original Black Flash from the Wally West storyline dies when the Reverse Flash actually creates a negative speed force that corrupts Barry's pure speed force. Because if you don't know, in the comic books, Barry Allen is actually the source of the speed force. When he first got his lightning powers, his speedster powers, he created this amazing energy force that all faster than light speedsters pull from. Now, the result of this in Flash Rebirth is that when the Reverse Flash creates this negative speed force, Barry Allen then becomes the Black Flash, and it's up to all the other speedsters to pull him out from that corruption. Now, let's talk about Season 4 of The Flash, and I'm going to give some informed predictions based on what I know about the Black Flash in both the comic books and his inclusion so far in the various DC TV shows. I think that there's a good chance that we will see the Black Flash show up in Season 4, because I don't think he's dead. I don't think that Killer Frost's ice powers did anything to the Black Flash, because I actually think that death is faster than anything. Now, I actually think it would be really cool if the Black Flash becomes sort of the secondary villain of the season to kind of counterbalance the Thinker's overarching plan, since the Thinker has already been confirmed as the Season 4 villain. I think it'd be really cool if immediately following Barry Allen's return from the Speed Force, Barry somehow becomes the new Black Flash. Because if we go off the idea that the essence of the Black Flash was sort of desecrated and destroyed by Killer Frost, maybe that essence is inside the Speed Force. Who is in the Speed Force right now? Barry Allen. When Barry Allen comes out, maybe he gets infected by that essence of death, infected by the Black Flash, and he turns sort of evil again, or everything he touches becomes death. And that way, the rest of the Star Labs team has to band together in order to return him to being a proper speedster. There are some things that discount this theory, because I don't know if the writers and producers will make Barry the villain again so quickly after we basically had Bavatar, or Barry Allen Savitar as I call him, in Season 3. What could be more likely is Eobard Thawne being resurrected from the negative Speed Force or the regular Speed Force as the new Black Flash, and basically having to live out his nightmare on screen since he spent so much time of Legends Season 2 running from the Black Flash. Maybe when Killer Frost killed the Hunter Zolomon version of the Black Flash, now that essence is going to go to Eobard, who is going to have to outrun death itself to be reborn as the new Reverse Flash. And maybe the machinations of the Thinker will allow Eobard to return to his rightful place in the real world. So let me know down in the comments what you think is going to happen with the Black Flash next season on any of these shows. And while you're down there, please click subscribe. If you like the videos that I do on my channel, please click subscribe, especially that little bell so you get a notification every time I make one of these videos. It really makes a difference. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Jason Inman.